week off until things are taken care of comfortably?
So I've considered that. The problem that I face with that is I'm already taking a significant pay cut to come out here, and in order to kind of stay out here for the week, there really isn't any good short-term choices that don't cost quite a fortune. So it would cost me almost the equivalent of my current mortgage to stay out here for 2 weeks a month. But I certainly would be willing to, show up early and then just kind of, charge through the entire day, even if it means going home at 8:30 at night, in order to make sure that we catch all the field conditions that we would need to look at for, complaints for zoning, that sort of thing. I was the one who implemented the remote inspection regimen in Salt Lake City when the COVID protocols hit. So I'm very familiar with virtual inspections. We do quite a bit of them. They have their limitations. I do not do any structural, with any sort of virtual inspection, but I think the vast majority of, water heaters, furnaces, a few of the other small incidental items that, I'm intimately familiar with, they're perfectly acceptable where we're at, and as long as we've got a good basic knowledge, it's worked out really well. So in my years of Salt Lake City, I've conducted probably 20,000 inspections, various items. I know the installation guidelines for water heaters and furnaces inside and out. I could probably write a book about it at this point. And it's just kind of one of those things where we did so much work so quickly there that the learning curve was very short, and we had to pick up a lot of things. So it's really easy for me to identify what I can and cannot accomplish remotely. But I just don't want to put myself in a position where we're negatively impacted. We would love to come here, and that is our goal. My wife is fully on board. She's actually watching the Zoom meeting tonight, and she would probably vote to come here if we could. But at the very interim, or at the very beginning of this process, I don't want to negatively impact my financial situation, essentially. So that's the only consideration that I have. Obviously, the building official serves at the pleasure of the board, the only promise that I could make would be that you wouldn't get any complaints about non-service for me.
Thank you.
Given that this is wintertime and construction theoretically is a little bit slower, instead of 6 months, would you entertain, if the council said that you would need to be here full-time by the end of March, is that doable?
So the statute here is 6 months. That's the only reason I brought up the 6 month time period. Our goal would be to sell our house and to move. I just don't want to do that coming up on Thanksgiving and Christmas.
Sure.
That's kind of one of our main concerns, is trying to vacate and move at that point in time. So outside of the holidays, and again, as soon as something comes available that fits our needs, and our needs aren't extravagant. I'm not a very fancy person. So we're looking for just kind of the right size housing to accommodate my wife and I. We don't have grandiose plans of 97 acres and a bunch of cows running around. I'd love to live in town so that I can cut down on my commute time. I just need to find appropriate housing, something that's not $1 million and something that doesn't need $1 million. So we're just kind of waiting for that opportunity for something to arise that's acceptable to us.
So by the end of March would be okay?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I don't have any reservations on being able to find appropriate housing at that time.
Because usually our construction season starts somewhere around there.
Yeah, no, and again, traveling, great distances through the winter, burning up gas, which is obviously not very cheap right now, that's not advantageous to me either. So, but for me right now, that's the best alternative solution to sleeping in a tent at the city park, and that doesn't seem very comfortable.
Sure. Any other questions from the council? Do you have any questions for us?
I've addressed a lot of the issues with the HR director and the conversations that I've had. So, the only real caveat is whether or not we could accomplish that remote, kind of hybrid schedule in order to facilitate the needs of the building department. And whether or not, because I understand that some people, they haven't really had exposure to that sort of lifestyle. It's kind of a new thing where people are working remotely, professionally, full time. My wife actually does that now, which is why she's so excited to come here and continue her job, because she's not going to be sacrificing anything. Obviously, I have to be here, but I just wouldn't want to come into the situation where I would get a phone call and say on a Tuesday, that I just left and said, oh, you have to come back here tomorrow, and then you have to come back here Friday too, because by that time I've just spent my entire salary just commuting back and forth. So, but I absolutely have no reservations whatsoever about handling the workload in the interim months. So that wasn't really a question.
Are you envisioning like a minimum 2 days a week, or
As much as